Welcome back to the Good AP Times podcast presented by Factura AI. I am your host, Megan Hardy, and I'm so excited for today's guest with Herb Taylor. Herb, you've spent years helping restaurant operators improve profitability, navigate realities of running multi unit locations. You've worked closely with operators on everything from budgeting to performance to technology and the systems that support growth. What really stands out about your background is truly that you've lived in that space where, kind of between hospitality and operations, you've seen the messy side. Let's be honest, we've all seen the messy side, but you've seen the spreadsheets, you've seen the vendor complexity, you've seen the things that nobody wants to post about on Instagram. And you've also had a front row seat to how restaurants really get to scale without losing what makes them special, which is so unique. So, we're going to have a really fun and interesting conversation today. We're going to play a little bit of a game. We might be completely off tangent in some of our conversations, but we're going to take a different perspective and say, what if restaurants borrowed some ideas from things like hotels or the airlines or even tech startups? And some of these ideas might be completely ridiculous, but some might actually help make the industry better. And I have a feeling it's really going to be a fun one. So thank you, Herb, so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome. So, yes, most of that's true. It's all, I'm well armored with all the scars and bruises from coming from the restaurant. I know stories woven in all those good scars.
It's what makes us all, it's the battle scars we all have. Well, you came to me with this topic, and I immediately was like, yes, this sounds so great. I think, like you said, restaurant operators, they spend years doing certain things a certain way. Like, why has hospitality or restaurants really embraced just living in that operational chaos way longer than most industries?
Adrenaline.
Fair.
I think that like coming from hospitality, I started working in kind of a restaurant fast food scene at 15 and going to college and many other endeavors. Hospitality was always there for a good portion of my life until tech came. And, you were trained to thrive in that chaos. And, like you were a hero at the end of the night if you made it. And I think that, all those things and trauma bonding and all that just kind of kept you in that flow, right? And when you went from restaurant to restaurant, managers were trained in that chaos and they trained their managers to survive that chaos and went on and on and on. And at the end of the night, you weren't applauded because the shift operationally went well. You were applauded because you survived and there was great customer feedback and the food was great and everything like that. And you thrived off that. And I think that's in many ways why I think a good portion of the hospitality industry, unless you're, giant and have lots of systems in place, that's why it's that way. It's because I don't know any other way. And if I suddenly have to treat it like the real job with tech and things that would improve operations, it's foreign to me, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's funny because I think a lot of people don't see behind the smoke and mirrors of a fine dining experience, and I think a lot of people, especially right now with the TV show The Bear, right? They're all seeing what that behind the scenes, and I have my husband's a former executive chef. He can't watch the show. It's like you said, it's brings back PTSD from that perspective. And so I think people are starting to see it, and there's a lot of questions about why they run that way. And then they wonder about other industries. Um, we could be funny about it. Like we said it, hotels, airlines, tech companies. What are some of the things that make them really different that restaurants might say, "Hey, we should try this."
I mean, I think, while restaurants are all about guest experience in a way, right? It's for a finite amount of time, right? Like I'm not staying in a restaurant for a day.
Yeah.
So having to be there, I think hotels have to do it because they really have to kind of nail that extended experience, right? For a restaurant, I have to do it for a couple hours and woo, you're out. Maybe you're gonna come back because you loved it. But for a hotel, you really have to nail that guest experience because again, you're there for days, who knows? I think so having to be organized and do all that, I think that even though so many hotels have such outdated tech, they really had to embrace it or find ways to do it well. Otherwise, there's so many moving pieces, the folio from the bar or the restaurant and this and that. Like, so I think they're kind of forced to do that to grow. I mean, unless you were truly like a very small boutique mom and pop that had very limited number of clients. And again, I think that's why hotels probably did it. Airlines, well, I mean, if you didn't have tech and you weren't organized, running a giant thing from one place to another and not crashing, s-
Yeah.
that the process, the journey has got to be driven by tech. I mean, and again, guest experiences and everything like that. It's, I think you could compare it to huge restaurant chains, right? They too have to do that in order. But majority of restaurants, no. Again, it's about that journey is only a couple hours, not across an ocean, right? And I
Yeah.
think tech, tech and restaurants finally have come together, right? I mean, that's
Yes.
how operationally changed my mind from, trauma bonding and chaos is because I entered a business intelligence platform hospitality. Like that was kind of my next venture. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, I learned a lot when I was in hospitality and I have this tech thing and I can apply them together. And suddenly like, oh my God, boom. Like there's so much I can help people with. And I think,
Yeah.
but historically, tech is, trying a million things on. You don't have the margins to try a million things. Tech does, right?
Yeah.
I think restaurants moving to tech are slowly starting to evolve part of the tech world from obviously operational tools, but also how they treat their employees, right? Like, I think that's important. Like, tech really takes employees and, like, here's all your perks, and here's the thing that we want to like build you up and have you be this thing. And it's really nice to see restaurants are starting to do that too, to kind of keep people. Anyways, ramble, Mr. Tangent. Here I go.
No, I love it. It's true though, because we think about how, I mean, if you look back and look at the tech adoption curve of things like hotels, and even though hotels probably were some of the first to adopt technology and they might have stayed in some of the technology that's a little bit older, like airlines keep adopting new technology, tech companies, it's the tech world is constantly a battle of who's got better tech, right? Like it's that, but restaurants are kind of in this, there's certain things that people can't let go of that are still in the very manual process. I mean, we all make the joke about the binder in the back office. Like that's still a real thing. And if you're not a restaurant person and you're watching this show and you're like, what do you mean by binder in the back office? It's like the holy grail of everything that you need to know about the business that has ever happened on any day. And it's this like just chaotic tribal knowledge book. But there's something there that is funny because you said trauma bonding. I'm going to laugh about that. It's going to be my word for the day. But we have a lot of that still stuck in that adoption. So before we get into like the tech side of things, what are some of the funniest or maybe most painful examples of the binder for you that we can talk about from a trauma bond perspective? What are some of those probably funniest or most painful experiences for you?
Well, one is kind of binder and one's kind of like the binder's tech. So the
Okay.
worked at a restaurant feels a lot of trauma bonding, and a lot of people from this restaurant are still my friends to this day, 30 plus years later. I mean, like ride or die kind of a thing. And there was a lot of chaos there. It's a great restaurant and the food, but I'll never forget there was a lot of disgruntled employees, and one of them took the binder, the literally physical binder, recipes, operations, training, everything, and took it. And it
Wow.
was the whole place collapsed because
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Wait, what? But I need huh?" And it had to be rebuilt. It was so traumatic to have to rebuild it. It was horrible. It was just horrible. It just made anyways. So that was funny. That was like I was like, "Wow, that person really was disgruntled." They could
Yeah.
stop the restaurant from operating by just taking this thing and running away with it. So,
But but hang on, before you get the next one, because I'm just thinking about that. Like we use that term a lot at Facturo, which is this like fear of tribal knowledge, right? And I hate to have the whole like if a person drops dead tomorrow, like do you still know your processes? And I think that that's something that like that book you said. How long were you guys out of business or trying to like just struggle along the way without that binder? That's why I'm surprised more restaurants haven't adopted tech because it takes away that tribal knowledge perspective. Do you when you talk to people, do you see either the tribal knowledge being something that people are like, no, I this we're fine. We have this tribal knowledge, or do you start to see people start to realize like, oh, that's something that could happen. That person could walk away tomorrow, walk out the door, drop dead, whatever. And like what that impact? Do people I don't think restaurants really understand what that impact to their business is.
So it's funny, we're on a tangent off of this, and is that since working at Eisner,
Yeah.
the outsourced services team. So like, we outsource your AP team or,
Yeah.
your like, so it's funny we talk about travel knowledge because it's something I often say, like, we provide a tech stack like Factura, right? And invoicing like that for a lot of restaurants is like, oh my God, what? I don't have to
Yeah.
throw it in that same place and it gets lost and whatever, right? But it's from an outsourced services perspective, I try to explain to people like, yes, I understand you have a bookkeeper and they do a great job, or you have that office person that's wonderful and they're QuickBooks and this and
Yeah.
that and whatever. And that's great. But that in a way, that person is a tribal knowledge, right? Because
Yeah.
they go on vacation, or what if they get sick, or what if they get a new job? Something like that. There's probably not a backup for that person,
Yeah.
right? No one else wants to do it. And it's something I try to say, like, I'm not trying to take anyone's job away, but you should consider like with like an outsourced team, like Eisner that we do, and you can
Yeah.
outsource that. Like, there's no going on vacation, there's no leaving, there's no new person, and we have a tech stack to follow us. For all these things, like it's interesting to come into this environment from just coming from tech alone and
Yeah.
seeing like, oh my God, I don't have to worry about all this. Someone goes on vacation, and I'm like, what do I do with this QuickBooks thing? Like, it's fascinating sometimes, like the improvement to their quality at the
Yeah.
chaos place. So
It takes a stress off shoulders because when you have a single person who or a single book that is the operational like center point of your business that could go get lost, disappear, get injured, get whatever. Like
win the lottery, big
you
nice
put a
thing.
huge risk at your business. And I think that's something as we kind of go back to our topic about hotels and airlines and tech companies, right? Like tech companies have a CRM. That is their ride or die. Like if I left the company tomorrow, right, everything should exist in a CRM or there's documented processes or whatever it may be. We think about like, there's less people involvement now. What I mean by that is you've probably been on an airplane where it takes like hey, a flight attendant has to change, or like you have a pilot who has to change because they've flown too many hours, or whatever may be. Just because that pilot leaves doesn't mean that the person who comes in to fly that plane doesn't know the route, doesn't know the plans, doesn't know how to execute it. And so I've never thought of it from that perspective. That's a really good perspective. I know I cut you off for your other story about kind of painful experience from the tech side. Tell me a little bit about that one.
So again, dating myself. That's so old. I work at nice restaurants and this is early 90s. Still didn't have point of sale systems. They were still PLU numbers if you had one. What was that number for blah, blah? What was PLU, blah, blah, blah? Maybe you remember that. Maybe you don't, because again, old guy here. But I worked in multiple restaurants that checks were still handwritten to the kitchen and a calculator and tax
Yeah.
and right everything. And this restaurant decided they were going to go big and get a point of sale.
Okay.
And ooh, fancy. And not a PLU one, like a touchscreen one. So fancy. And what was it took forever to get installed and cables everywhere because it's there's no internet or anything and wireless, it's everywhere. And it get trained on it, ring up tickets, punch different colored buttons. And when it was all said and done, we still went back to the old travel ways. The only thing they used it for was because they didn't have to worry about reading handwriting on the line that was sloppy from servers, because now it's on printed checks that were clear. And we still did checkouts the old way. You would spit out check. Oh no, that's not how we do it in the binder, you know. And the managers, like, I was a shift manager at the end of the night too, besides waiting tables. And they were like, no, no, when we do that, we still go fill out this sheet. And I was like, but it prints it. I'm like,
It prints it right here.
but it was still they were still so stuck in that binder, right?
Yeah.
So it was just funny that that always reminds me of like sometimes the hurdle you still have to get over. Like that's the reminder that so set in the ways that trying to show them, life can be a little bit easier and we can function more on operations and everything else, right? Less stress. But anyways, I always think back to that story. And we used to have to do our checkouts and we had the check stabbers, little metal things to stab your checks in the window. But each server, there was like 10 of them. So when you did your checkout, you'd stab all your checks on it like this. Even you have to count the check, stab it, what, holes in their hands. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's just like, this is the craziest torture thing ever. Anyways, I was my
It's
I
so
think about it all the time.
I trust me, there's some things where I think about from when I was back that I'm like, "Man, I don't even think." I tried to explain, we were talking about it in another podcast, when if the POS system went down and you couldn't take a card reader, you had the old school piece of paper that you, like, slid over and it, like, did the black marker of the card writing, and all I can think about was how, unsafe that is now for credit card information. But we talked about like ease. Like, there's a lot of times people, restaurant operators, like, well, it's just the way it is because I don't care that it's hard. It's easy because we've always done it this way. What hidden cost do you see a lot of operators missing when they're relying on those manual systems? Like, where are we seeing a lot of the hidden cost from?
I mean
Yeah.
labor everything. Right? Like it takes me more time to do this and more time to do that, or I have to, have this person come in and do that, or because someone else is gone. Like, it's just, labor, hidden costs, it's everywhere. Like just on having like tech and systems in place, rationally, like, predictive scheduling. I don't have to sit down and do spreadsheets or whatever. Like all these things where, invoicing. What I have to hand enter these things and scan this. Like it's labor. Just all the time labor. I think, yeah. I mean, we could go into other things like, "Oh, you paid that invoice twice," or whatever, right? Like, that hidden cost. I'm just going to say, period. Like, you could just where that is where you can save money. You're in restaurants. That's where you can improve things. Well, here you go.
Well, and we think about the, cost of goods. We're just gonna do true restaurant terminology, right? We talk about our two major things, our two prime costs. We've got our cost of goods and our cost of labor. And I think right now in the current economy, the cost of goods margin is getting thinner and thinner because you either don't have people come in and dine in because you're having to charge, $40 for a plate, or you can control labor. And I think labor is becoming something that we can start to control more and more. And that's absolutely every penny counts in that moment. So, especially when you're in California. So, like, overtime and penalties and those little sneaky things that like to sneak in underneath it and all that crazy stuff. Okay. What do you think when we talk about the other industries? We talked about some stuff that they should borrow from like a tech perspective. And what are some of the things that they should maybe never borrow? How about nickel and diming for like everything that you like an extra bag? And so your napkins now cost this much more. And to have this is this much more. I think there's a level of that is interesting.
Yeah, like I think something that you were like airlines, for example. Airlines, I think have no longer prioritized the customer. Like,
Yeah.
let's not borrow that, right? Like, always prioritize the customer. And I think that unless you're the tier or have the money or whatever, you're just, a number to an
Yeah.
airline. Like, just don't do that. And I think tech, you need the right tech, but don't, like you were talking about, like tech, who has the best tech. That's how tech companies, like, are always fighting who's best. Let's not do that either in hospitality. Like, let's not always the next shiny thing and immediately move to it. Like,
Yeah.
let's find tech that is serving its purpose and doing it well. And if you're feeling like it's not, let's evolve and see what else is out there that does it better. But again, working for C2 for a long time, working at hospitality tech, like there were clients that changed point of sales every year. Just like
Yes.
because it was the new shiny thing. Woo, woo. I'm like, what? So I think that's something we don't want to do. Like, let's have good tech. Let's get it established. Let's operationally go. And then let's see what we add on or adjust when things are working well, not just because it's shiny. What does that leave? So airline of hotels. Oh, gosh, I don't know. Have updated tech. Don't have old tech.
I mean, there's a handful of things there. There's a lot of like strict guidelines when it comes to hotels and certain stuff, which is understandable. But I would love to know this. What do you think some of the best operators are doing differently today?
I think that especially in the last, like, I want to say even 15 years, I think
Yeah.
hospitality has really evolved so much. Like, there is a niche for every part of the hospitality, whether it be open table and understanding your guests and getting all that data information about your guests for the next time they come in. I can imagine that 15, 20 years ago, right? Like, I think restaurant operators, because tech is everything in our world, have really embraced it and are starting to see ways that they understand operations. before it was, again, that whole thing we talked about earlier where it's managers training on chaos, managers training on chaos.
Yeah.
I think that there's a new breed of managers that are actually training on tech. So it's understanding operationally what they need to do. No longer is it hopefully you're going to get a manager who knows what a forecast is and can teach you about it, right? Or understanding budgets. I think operationally that's where everyone's heading, and that's nice. It's nice to see that. And these old school people are kind of drifting away and resting on their laurels of survival, if you will. But anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, a little tangent, but I think that's where do see the change.
No, and it's funny because I think when we think about things like hotels and tech companies and airlines, right? Like they're really disciplined on their processes, on their structure, on their organization, right? But like you said with some of the airline stuff and some of the even some we've had this conversation with other people, like even some tech organizations, there's this loss of the human element of it. And I think right now as a society, we have continued to lose this human element of it, right? And so it's this weird balance between the two of like both having good systems and habits of being disciplined versus chaotic, but being able to have a good guest experience between. And I think you see that, right? Like a chaotic business that can't give a good guest experience is not great. But sometimes you give the good guest experience in order to avoid the chaos, right? Like in order to avoid the chaos. Whereas in sometimes I feel like some of the super disciplined systems don't get the ability to give the guest experience. What systems or habits do you see kind of separating those two, either the disciplined or the chaotic? What are some of those systems or habits you see?
That separate from good guest experience to bad guest experience.
Yeah, get best, but like also in the sense of, do you agree that a sometimes do you agree that sometimes too much systems prevent the guest experience and or even too much chaos prevents the guest experience? Like if you were to choose between one or the other, where are you kind of saying, "Hey, this is what I see the best systems and habits do to really separate to give that good guest experience?"
I mean, I think operationally, behind the scenes, taking care of the restaurant so the restaurant is successful, right? I think that tech needs to come in. I think there's a amount of it to on the front end that can help improve the guest experience. So, like, I I think all too often, even restaurants that you consider like I don't want to say quick service, but like fast casual have moved to this place where tech is the guest experience. And
Yeah.
that's unfortunate because, and maybe I'm just old school and speaking, but when I go to a restaurant for two reasons. One, I just need to eat, right? But that's for function. But if I'm going out to eat, like it's an event, like the things I want are the food I want to be good. I want to enjoy what I'm eating, but I really want there to be a sense of like being if anyone remembers Cheers, being norm, right? Like you walk in and you feel that it's someplace you want to spend your money and sit and enjoy yourself, not just do the function of eating something good. And I think that these days is it happens too frequently. Like it's like, hey, we're gonna do all this tech and check in here and press this. And there's no more of that interaction where it's like
Yeah.
no longer have we built servers that have that sixth sense where they can walk up to the table and immediately know how their experience with you is going to be and how they need to adjust. Like, I could kind of ruin some of that. And I think what the takeaway is hey, operationally, let the managers go do all these things that can make the job better so they can still work on that experience at the front end and not feel like they're burnt out.
Yeah. It's like
But, am I-
discipline and system your back office, not your front office. So that, because if I can discipline and system the back office, me as someone who wants to give a guest experience gets to spend more time on the floor and go do that. It's funny that you say that because we just recently tried a new restaurant where we are, and I walked in and I walked up to the host stand like you normally would. And I said, table of four. And they went, "Oh no, no, you have to check in over there and over there." And I was like, "But I'm right here." But I'm talking to you. And so they made me go and put my name on a wait list over on an iPad, which then sent me a text on my phone and it told me how long it would be. And then when we got there, I went to the host stand again and she was like, "Okay, follow me." And I was like,
right?
what a weird experience. Like it was just weird.
Like I already don't feel like I'm having the experience. It's like I just did work.
Yeah. I could have booked it on I could have booked it on my phone ahead of time if I would have known that it was going to be this long of a wait.
It feels like a function. Like, I don't want to feel like it's like functionally a thing. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want that.
Where do you think are some areas where restaurants have quietly gotten better that we don't talk about enough? Like some areas that restaurants have truly quietly gotten better.
Oh, where have restaurants got better? I mean, I think restaurants, again, operationally do pay more attention now. I mean, if it is the idea they are able to pay attention to labor costs, they're able to pay attention to the cost of goods because there is, in most restaurants, there is something set in place that is at least getting them that direction, right? But it's hard to tell. I mean, from the back end, seeing that obviously I see better managers and, like they understand things better because of tech. And you can talk to them operational things where they don't go, "Yeah, I don't know what a forecast is." Again, I come back to forecasting budgeting because it was always my stepping stones to teach managers
Yeah.
see outside the box.
Yeah.
But I see that change. Again, the other change is I just what we talked about. Like I'm worried that them going that direction, they're gonna lose the ability to
Yeah. You talked about that. Do you think the guest experience has evolved faster than the back office?
I think the guest experience for the most part has devolved on the back office
Okay.
side. I I really do feel that. Like I feel like more restaurants I go in now, there is less focus on connection to me as a diner, and that is troubling to me. I mean, it's nice to see the restaurants functionally run really well, but we don't want, again, that was like, what do we want to see from these other companies that we don't want to
Yeah.
see in restaurants? That
That.
month.
Absolutely that. What do you think is more dangerous for a growing restaurant? Bad people or bad processes?
Bad people as in bad management, which is more dangerous.
I I mean, it could be bad management, it could be bad servers, right? Like there's a handful of things there. I'm more so this is a hot take kind of thought process is what do we think is more dangerous for a growing restaurant?
I think I think if the growing restaurant is just all about operations, I think that's just super dangerous.
Yeah. I think there's it's funny because I could have an argument for both. I could truly have an argument for both, and I was curious. I think when we talk about from a growing perspective, bad processes become larger as you scale, right? You can't put more it's like it's a broken conveyor belt. When you put more weight on a broken conveyor belt, it's gonna cause more problems down the road. So, all right, we talked about this in the beginning a little bit. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's like, I think your processes and your tech and the things you use should help you get rid of the minutia and the spreadsheets and the things that are manually preventing you from providing your team and the guest a better experience.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about this a little bit at the beginning, and I think it's still something interesting. Do you think restaurants are too quick to celebrate heroes instead of fixing the system that requires heroics?
I think it's changed a little, but
Okay.
yes. And I think, you know, and I'm speaking from me, from my
Yeah.
deck, but yeah, I mean, it's that adrenaline junkie thing, right? Like night are like, whoa, shift drink. And we did it. And high five. And I multitasked all over the place today. I did all these things and we survived it. And
Yeah.
yay. I mean, forever, I made $200 in tips. Not that much, but, and a manager was like, oh, there's like literally no powers except plunging the toilet. That was great. Like, you know, I, I think I think because there's, again, emergency room, restaurants, very similar in stress
Yeah.
levels. Again, you're still a junkie on that stress.
It's so emergency rooms. We should have added that to the list of things of how restaurants need to not run like emergency rooms.
True.
Well, it's actually funny because I have parents that were in the medical field, and I used to always make a joke that between restaurants and like the medical field, they're one of the companies that you can't understand from the outside looking in. Like you can only truly understand it when you're in it. So it's so funny that you compared those two. Because yes, it's that adrenaline junkie energy of like this is how we've always done it. This is how we're gonna go from there. That's so funny. All right. Well, in that topic, some rapid fire questions. What's one thing people from outside the hospitality world would never understand? I know we talked a little bit about how the bear is giving some insights inside, but what is one thing that people will just never understand? Trauma bonding. Yes.
But it makes the best friends. Like they're not going to leave you. Like you're connected forever. And that's great. Like how many, and again, I've been in several different industries and I haven't really seen it the same, but how many other industries where there's so much chaos and so much adrenaline and so much relying on other people all the time to survive.
Oh
Do
yeah.
you have great relationships like that. It's like my other half, he has good friends, but he doesn't quite get it. Like we are like I think you're more married to them.
Yeah. Just so you know, I married the chef that I worked with, so it's
Thanks, man.
yeah, it's very funny. What do you think is the most dangerous phrase in operations? And I ask this because I have one that we've quietly said already once today, so I'm curious what yours is. What do you think is the most dangerous phrase in operations?
That's how we've always done.
That's how we've always done it. I also think I tell people all the time when I train people on the restaurant industry, I always use the term putting out fires because I said that is the baseline. You got to understand that that's not like a chaos level. That's baseline. Putting out fires is how they expect their day to go. That's the baseline. And so that's always been my like go-to phrase that is the most dangerous in my opinion. Well, it's crazy too because you expect something to go bad. Like, you're prepared. It's fight or flight that you're ready for fight at all times.
Coming, we're ready. Like not true. I mean, I haven't thought about like you've already primed yourself up for all these negative things that you have to fix.
Yep. Okay, one tool you couldn't live without, both now and one tool you couldn't live without when you were in the industry.
I mean, I don't want to say AI, but anything that like I don't have to I, any tool that deals with the minutia, like again, like figuring out schedules, or I mean, I like forecasting. I know that's really weird, but for other operators, it might be forecasting, right? Like I think it's
Yeah,
fun, but like anything that takes any tool that can just take away that day to day minutia. So
yeah,
as a hospitality person, I can get back to what I hopefully am good at, which is hospitality.
yeah, absolutely. I love that. Favorite restaurant and why? We always love to give our favorite restaurants a shout out. Favorite restaurant and why?
Oh, one is no longer in existence. It was Castle. That was one of the places I worked. It was pure chaos. Just, oh, it's just the best. Everything was great about it. Everything except any chaos was cool. But we had the best wine list ever. And the owner, we bought more wine. We were just a small restaurant. And we bought more wine than I think it was a long time, but any other restaurant in Texas. And
Okay.
she get these amazing cases and cases of wine. Since we bought so much, we got in bulk. And she just had $5 on the bottom from her cost. It's like, yep, that's $5 more than my cost. So you just like most wine ever for nothing. And you got half off and you got 50% off a bottle. So bottle. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's things I miss living in California. Like, I'm gonna say this. I'm like, man, perhaps I really used to love this place called Torchy's Tacos. It's a huge chain now.
Yeah.
I miss Torchy's Tacos. Living in California is a burrito, and Torchy's Tacos was such good things. They had yellow queso. Missed that. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, the best restaurant experience I ever had was Single Thread in Hillsburg, which is everything about it was phenomenal, from service to food.
Nice.
Um, but I think saying favorite restaurant would be someplace where again it comes back to I feel connected, right? It's that warm, I feel like I'm welcome and I'm wanted there. And when I leave, I feel satisfied, not just because my belly is full, but because I, I feel connected. So
Yeah, it was an experience. You've come from the industry, and I always joke about this from industry people. Industry people can have just as good as food usually at home. Like they can prep it and make it and do it for the most part, right? And so when I don't want to cook, I want it to be an experience because I'm a homebody. Otherwise, I want just the comfort at my own home, right? Like there's a level of that. So I get that completely. All right, last question. What's one piece of advice that you would give to either someone who is starting off in the restaurant industry or a restaurant operator? Just kind of what's that one piece of advice that when you have a client, you give it to them?
I mean, I think this entire conversation, find ways to reduce the noise and chaos. Like if something is repetitive and you can find something, a system, a software, a thing that can replace that, a team. I mean, like what I do now,
Yeah.
do it. I mean, do it. Focus. You opened a restaurant clearly for the most part, not to make $1 billion unless you're really lucky. You did it because there's something that drew you to opening a restaurant, right? I mean, it's not like it's easy. So find a way to replace all that minutia with tech and a team so you can focus on hopefully the reason you opened a restaurant, which
Yeah,
was
the
right.
passion behind it. Yeah.
Exactly. That would be my, yeah, that's that.
No, that's perfect. It's perfect. No, it's it's exactly right. It's I think that's one thing that people don't realize. Like you don't get into the restaurant industry to make a bajillion dollars. You do it for a passion. And at some point in time, a lot of people lose that passion because
Burnout.
all
Yep.
of the other and all of the burnout that comes with it. And so to figure out ways to be able to keep that passion and focus entirely on let somebody else focus on the chaos. That's what it should someone else to be able to take that chaos and go, let's just keep it inside these little guardrails, would be huge. Well, Herb, thank you so much for having been on with us. And we really appreciate it. And this has been such a fun conversation. And seriously, just thank you so much.
And someday we're going to talk about plants.
We will. All the plants in the background. We've already talked about it once. We'll have a whole conversation about it. You, I haven't opened that app you told me to go to, so we'll we'll go there. But thank you again, Herb, so much. And for all our listeners, follow in next week. If you want to learn more about Herb or his company, his LinkedIn, the companies will all be posted in the descriptions. And we'll tune in next week.